Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in life when we are faced with people who test the very essence of who we are. When dealing with narcissistic individuals, the first and most crucial step is to recognize their tactics and understand the mindset that drives their behavior. Narcissists are often adept at concealing their true intentions behind a veneer of charm, confidence, and charisma. They create an illusion of superiority, projecting an image that can be deceivingly appealing to those who are not familiar with their patterns. Understanding their mindset requires you to look beyond the surface and grasp the motivations fueling their actions. At the core of narcissistic behavior lies a deep insecurity that they work tirelessly to mask. This insecurity often stems from unresolved issues in their past, which might include feelings of inadequacy, rejection, or trauma. However, instead of confronting these feelings and working to heal, narcissists build a facade of self-importance and entitlement. They create a world where they are the center of attention, and everything and everyone must revolve around their needs, desires, and validation. This inflated sense of self-worth is not genuine. It is a defense mechanism designed to protect them from the pain of their unresolved wounds. One of the hallmark traits of a narcissist is their need for control. They thrive in environments where they can manipulate people and situations to maintain dominance. This control is not always overt. In fact, many narcissists are skilled at using subtle and insidious methods to assert their power. They might employ tactics such as gaslighting, where they distort reality to make you doubt your perceptions and memories. By doing this, they erode your confidence and make you reliant on their version of events. This kind of manipulation can be so subtle that you might not even realize it is happening until you step back and assess the situation objectively. Narcissists also have a profound need for validation and admiration. They seek out environments where their achievements, real or exaggerated, can be praised and celebrated. They often gravitate toward positions of influence or authority, not necessarily because they have a genuine desire to lead, but because these roles provide them with the attention and adoration they crave. When they do not receive the level of admiration they feel entitled to, they can become resentful, angry, or dismissive. This reaction is a direct reflection of their internal insecurity, as they rely on external validation to sustain their fragile sense of self-worth. It is important to understand that narcissists view relationships not as mutual exchanges of respect and care, but as opportunities for self-advancement. They often assess the people around them based on what they can gain from the relationship. This might include material benefits, social status, emotional support, or simply the satisfaction of having someone who looks up to them. When someone no longer serves their purpose, they may discard them without remorse, moving on to their next source of validation. This transactional approach to relationships can leave others feeling used, confused, and emotionally drained. Another key aspect of the narcissistic mindset is their inability or unwillingness to take accountability for their actions. They often deflect blame, rationalize their behavior, or shift focus onto others when confronted with their mistakes. This lack of accountability stems from their fear of being exposed as flawed or inadequate. Admitting fault threatens the carefully constructed image they have built, so they go to great lengths to avoid it. In some cases, they may even resort to outright lies or elaborate stories to protect their image, further complicating the situation for those trying to hold them accountable. A crucial element in understanding the narcissistic mindset is recognizing their tendency to provoke emotional responses in others. Narcissists are often skilled at identifying and exploiting emotional triggers. They use these triggers to elicit reactions that serve their agenda. For example, they may intentionally say or do something hurtful to provoke anger or sadness, which they then use as evidence to portray you as irrational or overly emotional. By doing this, they shift attention away from their own behavior and onto your reaction, thereby maintaining control of the narrative. Their ability to provoke emotions extends to their use of charm and flattery. In the early stages of a relationship or interaction, a narcissist might shower you with compliments, attention, and affection. This is often referred to as love bombing. During this phase, they create a sense of euphoria, making you feel special and valued. However, this is not a genuine expression of care. It is a calculated tactic to gain your trust and loyalty. Once they have achieved this, the dynamic often shifts, and they begin to exert control, criticize, or manipulate you. Narcissists are also highly sensitive to criticism, even if it is constructive or well-intentioned. Any perceived slight or challenge to their authority can trigger a defensive or aggressive response. This hypersensitivity is another manifestation of their insecurity. To protect their ego, they may lash out, belittle the critic, or deflect attention away from themselves. Understanding this sensitivity can help you navigate interactions with them more effectively, as it reveals the vulnerabilities they work so hard to hide. Recognizing the patterns and mindset of a narcissist is not about labeling or judging them. It is about equipping yourself with the knowledge to protect your well-being. By understanding their motivations and tactics, you can begin to see through their manipulations and respond in ways that preserve your dignity and autonomy. Recognizing their behavior for what it is, a defense mechanism rooted in insecurity, allows you to depersonalize their actions and avoid being drawn into their games. When engaging with a narcissist, one of the most critical strategies is mastering your emotional responses. Narcissists are skilled manipulators who thrive on eliciting strong reactions from others, using these responses to their advantage. Emotional reactions, whether they stem from anger, frustration, or hurt, provide narcissists with the validation they seek and reinforce their sense of control over you. The ability to regulate your emotions in their presence is not just a defense mechanism, but a tool for reclaiming your power and disrupting their influence. To understand why emotional control is so effective against narcissists, it's important to first examine their reliance on emotional manipulation. Narcissists often create chaos, either subtly or overtly, to provoke reactions. They might insult you, challenge your opinions, or create scenarios that leave you feeling unbalanced. This behavior serves a dual purpose. It allows them to shift focus away from their shortcomings while positioning themselves as dominant. By reacting emotionally, you inadvertently play into their hands, giving them the power to control the narrative and exploit your vulnerability. One of the ways narcissists provoke emotional reactions is through tactics like gaslighting. They may distort the truth, deny events that occurred, or accuse you of overreacting to legitimate concerns. This leaves you questioning your perceptions and often triggers an emotional outburst as you attempt to defend your reality. These moments of heightened emotion are precisely what the narcissist is aiming for, because they allow them to dismiss your concerns as irrational or exaggerated, further undermining your confidence. Another common tactic is triangulation, where the narcissist involves a third party to manipulate or control the situation. For instance, they may compare you unfavorably to someone else, whether it's a colleague, friend, or family member, in an attempt to provoke feelings of jealousy or inadequacy. Your emotional reaction, whether it's anger, sadness, or defensiveness, becomes evidence for the narcissist to claim that you are difficult or overly sensitive, which they can then use to justify their actions or reinforce their sense of superiority. In these scenarios, the key to dismantling the narcissist's power lies in your ability to remain calm and composed. Emotional detachment doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or ignoring the impact of their behavior. Instead, it involves learning to process your emotions internally without allowing them to dictate your external response. This requires a high level of self-awareness as well as the discipline to pause and evaluate the situation before reacting. When you refuse to give the narcissist the reaction they are seeking, you disrupt their strategy and begin to shift the power dynamic. Developing emotional detachment begins with understanding your own triggers. Everyone has emotional vulnerabilities, specific words, actions, or situations that evoke strong feelings. Narcissists are adept at identifying and exploiting these triggers, often using them repeatedly to gain control. By identifying your triggers, you can prepare yourself to respond differently when they arise. For example, if you know that a narcissist frequently belittles your achievements to make you feel inadequate, you can anticipate this behavior and decide in advance how to respond or not respond when it occurs. Mindfulness and self-regulation are invaluable tools in mastering your emotional responses. Practicing mindfulness allows you to stay present in the moment and observe your emotions without becoming overwhelmed by them. When a narcissist attempts to provoke you, mindfulness enables you to recognize the manipulation for what it is and detach yourself from the immediate urge to react. Techniques such as deep breathing, grounding exercises, or even mentally counting to 10 can help you regain your composure and approach the situation with a clear head. Another crucial aspect of emotional detachment is learning to separate your sense of self-worth from the narcissist's opinions or actions. Narcissists often use criticism, blame, or rejection to undermine your confidence and make you feel dependent on their approval. By cultivating a strong sense of self and recognizing your inherent value, you become less vulnerable to their attempts to manipulate your emotions. Affirmations, self-reflection, and surrounding yourself with supportive and understanding individuals can all contribute to building this inner strength. It's also important to understand that remaining calm in the face of provocation is not a sign of weakness or passivity. On the contrary, it is a demonstration of strength and self-control. Narcissists often escalate their behavior when they sense that their usual tactics are no longer effective. They may intensify their efforts to provoke you, resorting to more blatant or aggressive manipulation. This escalation can be challenging, but it is also an indication that you are successfully disrupting their control. By maintaining your composure and refusing to engage in their games, you force the narcissist to confront the limits of their influence. Over time, mastering emotional detachment not only protects you from the immediate effects of the narcissist's behavior, but also creates an environment where their tactics become increasingly ineffective. Narcissists rely on your emotional investment to sustain their power. When you withdraw that investment and focus instead on your own peace and well-being, you begin to regain control of the dynamic. This shift can be empowering, as it allows you to navigate interactions with the narcissist from a place of strength and clarity rather than vulnerability. Mastering your emotional responses also has a ripple effect on other areas of your life. The skills you develop in dealing with a narcissist, such as mindfulness, self-awareness, and emotional regulation, can enhance your relationships, improve your resilience, and boost your overall sense of empowerment. These skills enable you to approach challenging situations with greater confidence and poise, reducing the impact of external stressors on your mental and emotional well-being. As you practice these techniques and witness their effectiveness, you may find that your interactions with the narcissist become less draining and more manageable. Setting firm boundaries is one of the most powerful ways to protect yourself when dealing with a narcissist. Narcissists are often masters at pushing limits, testing thresholds, and seeing how far they can go to manipulate and control others. Their behavior thrives in environments where boundaries are unclear or inconsistently enforced, making it essential for you to establish and maintain clear limits. A boundary, in essence, is a declaration of what you will and will not accept in your interactions. It defines how you expect to be treated and serves as a protective barrier between your well-being and their overreach. Establishing boundaries begins with recognizing your personal limits and values. Narcissists often blur these lines, using charm, guilt, or intimidation to gain access to parts of your life they have no right to control. For instance, they might insist on knowing every detail about your personal relationships or make demands on your time that are unreasonable. To counter this, you need to clearly identify the areas of your life that you want to protect and decide what behaviors you will no longer tolerate. This clarity is crucial because it serves as the foundation for all the boundaries you set moving forward. When communicating a boundary to a narcissist, it is vital to be direct, concise, and assertive. Narcissists are skilled at finding loopholes or twisting words to suit their agenda, so your language must leave no room for misinterpretation. For example, instead of saying, "I prefer if you didn't call me late at night," say, "Do not call me after 9 p.m. Notice the difference. One is a preference that can be negotiated, while the other is a clear statement of expectation." Narcissists are less likely to challenge a boundary that is communicated with confidence and authority. However, it's important to understand that simply stating a boundary is not enough. You must be prepared to enforce it consistently. Narcissists are notorious for testing boundaries repeatedly to see if you will cave under pressure. They may push back with arguments, guilt trips, or even outright defiance. For instance, if you set a boundary about not discussing a certain topic, they may bring it up subtly, feigning ignorance, or blatantly disregard your request to provoke a reaction. This is where your resolve becomes crucial. Every time you allow a boundary to be crossed without consequences, you send the message that your limits are negotiable, which only emboldens their behavior. Enforcing boundaries requires you to follow through with clear consequences when they are violated. These consequences do not need to be punitive, but should be designed to protect your well-being and assert your position. For example, if a narcissist continues to interrupt your personal time after being told not to, the consequence might be ending the conversation or temporarily limiting contact. The key is consistency. Consequences must be applied every time a boundary is crossed to reinforce its importance. This approach not only protects you, but also signals to the narcissist that their attempts to manipulate or control you will not succeed. One of the challenges of setting boundaries with a narcissist is managing the emotional manipulation they often employ to undermine your resolve. They may accuse you of being selfish, ungrateful, or overly sensitive, all in an effort to make you question the validity of your boundaries. It is crucial to remind yourself that setting boundaries is not selfish. It is a necessary act of self-respect and self-preservation. Your boundaries are not about punishing the narcissist, but about creating a space where you can feel safe, valued, and in control of your own life. Narcissists may also attempt to retaliate when faced with firm boundaries, using tactics such as the silent treatment, passive-aggressive behavior, or attempts to turn others against you. These reactions can be unsettling, but they are often a sign that your boundaries are effective. The narcissist's resistance is not a reflection of the validity of your limits, but of their discomfort with losing control. By standing firm in the face of these tactics, you not only reinforce your boundaries, but also demonstrate that their manipulations no longer have power over you. It's also important to recognize that boundaries are not a one-time event, but an ongoing process. As relationships and circumstances evolve, you may need to adjust your boundaries to reflect new challenges or priorities. For example, if a narcissist respects one boundary but begins testing another, it may be necessary to establish additional limits to address the new behavior. This adaptability ensures that your boundaries remain effective and aligned with your needs. Maintaining boundaries with a narcissist also requires you to prioritize your own emotional and physical well-being. Interactions with narcissists can be draining, especially when they challenge your limits or retaliate against them. Engaging in self-care practices, seeking support from trusted friends or professionals, and taking time to recharge are all essential steps in preserving your strength and resilience. By investing in your well-being, you reinforce the message that your boundaries are non-negotiable and rooted in a deep commitment to your own health and happiness. Another critical aspect of setting boundaries is learning to detach from the narcissist's reactions. Narcissists often rely on your emotional investment to weaken your resolve, so remaining calm and composed in the face of their resistance is essential. This detachment does not mean ignoring their behavior, but rather refusing to let their attempts to manipulate or provoke you dictate your actions. By staying grounded in your values and focusing on your own needs, you can navigate boundary setting with confidence and clarity. Understanding and accepting the limits of what you can and cannot change about a narcissist is essential for preserving your peace of mind and emotional well-being. Narcissists are deeply entrenched in their patterns of behavior, often rooted in long-standing psychological mechanisms that protect their fragile self-esteem. These behaviors are not something you can easily change or influence, no matter how much effort, logic, or compassion you invest. Attempting to change a narcissist is not only futile, but can also lead to emotional exhaustion, frustration, and even harm to your sense of self. Narcissists operate within a rigid framework of self-perception, often driven by an exaggerated sense of superiority and entitlement. At the same time, this inflated self-image masks a deep-seated insecurity they will go to great lengths to protect. Confronting or challenging a narcissist about their behavior often triggers defensiveness, denial, or even aggression. They view criticism, no matter how constructive, as a threat to their carefully constructed facade. This resistance to self-reflection makes meaningful change nearly impossible unless it is initiated by the narcissists themselves, and even then, it is rare. One of the most challenging aspects of dealing with a narcissist is recognizing that their behavior is not about you. Narcissists tend to project their insecurities, fears, and frustrations onto others, creating an environment where their actions can feel deeply personal. They may blame you for their shortcomings, criticize you to elevate themselves, or manipulate situations to make you feel at fault. However, these tactics are less about your actions and more about their need to protect their fragile ego. Understanding this distinction can help you detach emotionally and resist the urge to take their behavior personally. Accepting the limitations of what you can control does not mean tolerating abusive or manipulative behavior. Instead, it involves shifting your focus away from trying to change the narcissist and toward managing your own reactions, boundaries, and emotional well-being. This perspective allows you to navigate interactions with a narcissist from a position of strength, rather than becoming entangled in their games. For instance, Instead of engaging in endless arguments or attempts to prove your point, you can choose to disengage or redirect the conversation, preserving your energy and peace of mind. It is also important to recognize that change within a narcissist is unlikely to occur without a genuine willingness on their part to confront their behavior and seek help. Narcissistic traits are deeply ingrained, often beginning in early childhood as coping mechanisms to deal with feelings of inadequacy or neglect. Over time, these traits become central to the narcissist's identity, making them resistant to self-awareness or external input. Even when faced with consequences for their actions, many narcissists deflect blame, rationalize their behavior, or outright deny responsibility. This lack of accountability makes personal growth or transformation exceptionally rare. Focusing on your own growth and empowerment is a more productive use of your time and energy than trying to change a narcissist. By investing in yourself, you can build resilience, confidence, and a stronger sense of self-worth, which makes you less vulnerable to their manipulations. This might involve pursuing personal interests, setting and achieving goals, or seeking support from friends, family, or professionals who understand your experiences. As you grow and strengthen your own identity, the narcissist's attempts to control or diminish you will have less impact. Another critical aspect of accepting what you cannot change is managing your expectations. Interacting with a narcissist often involves cycles of hope and disappointment, especially if you believe they will eventually see the harm their actions cause and choose to change. These cycles can be emotionally draining as they keep you invested in an outcome that is unlikely to materialize. By adjusting your expectations and accepting the narcissist for who they are, flaws, and all, you free yourself from the emotional roller coaster of unmet hopes. This does not mean excusing their behavior, but rather acknowledging the reality of their limitations. Detaching from the desire to change a narcissist also involves letting go of the need for their validation or approval. Narcissists often withhold affirmation or use it selectively to maintain control and keep others seeking their approval. This dynamic can create a sense of dependency where your self-worth becomes tied to their unpredictable praise or attention. By cultivating self-validation and recognizing your intrinsic value, you can break free from this cycle and regain control over your sense of identity. It is natural to feel a sense of loss or frustration when you come to terms with the fact that you cannot change a narcissist. You may mourn the relationship you hope to have or feel disheartened by the lack of reciprocity in your interactions. Allowing yourself to process these emotions is an essential part of moving forward. At the same time, redirecting your energy toward the aspects of your life that bring you joy, fulfillment, and stability can help you rebuild and strengthen your emotional foundation. Learning to accept what you cannot change about a narcissist is a form of liberation. It allows you to step out of the cycle of manipulation and regain control over your own life. By focusing on your own well-being, setting clear boundaries, and letting go of the need to fix or change them, you create a space where their behavior no longer defines your reality. This shift in perspective empowers you to prioritize your own needs and move forward with clarity and confidence, regardless of the narcissist's actions. Recognizing manipulation tactics employed by a narcissist is essential to maintaining control over your own emotions, decisions, and interactions. Narcissists often rely on subtle and overt methods to influence others, bending situations in their favor while leaving you questioning your own perceptions. These tactics can range from overt displays of dominance to covert methods like guilt tripping or gaslighting, all designed to keep you under their control. By identifying and understanding these tactics, you can better protect yourself from their influence and respond in ways that uphold your boundaries and integrity. One of the most common manipulation tactics narcissists use is gaslighting. This insidious form of psychological abuse involves distorting the truth, denying facts, or creating doubt about your memories and experiences. A narcissist might claim that something you clearly remember never happened or accuse you of misinterpreting their words, even when their intentions were unmistakable. The goal of gaslighting is to destabilize your sense of reality, making you more reliant on their version of events. Over time, this can erode your confidence in your judgment, leaving you vulnerable to further manipulation. Another frequently used tactic is guilt tripping, where a narcissist exploits your sense of empathy and responsibility to get what they want. They might frame themselves as the victim in a situation, exaggerating their suffering or blaming you for their misfortune. For instance, they might say things like, after everything I've done for you, how could you treat me this way? Or I guess I'm just not important enough for you to care about. These statements are designed to make you feel obligated to meet their demands or prioritize their needs over your own. Recognizing guilt tripping for what it is, a tool to manipulate your emotions, can help you resist the pressure to conform to their wishes. Triangulation is another manipulation tactic narcissists frequently employ. This involves bringing a third party into the dynamic to create competition, jealousy, or division. For example, a narcissist might compare you unfavorably to someone else, saying things like, why can't you be more like person's name, or involve others in conflicts to shift the focus away from their own behavior. Triangulation not only undermines your confidence, but also creates an atmosphere of mistrust and rivalry, making it easier for the narcissist to maintain control. By recognizing when triangulation is occurring, you can refuse to participate in the drama and focus on fostering direct, honest communication. Projection is another classic narcissistic tactic, where they attribute their own negative traits or behaviors to you. If they are feeling insecure, they might accuse you of being jealous. If they are behaving selfishly, they might call you self-centered. This tactic serves two purposes. It deflects attention away from their shortcomings and places you on the defensive, forcing you to justify yourself rather than questioning their actions. The key to countering projection is staying grounded in your own reality and refusing to accept responsibility for issues that are not yours. Love bombing is a particularly deceptive manipulation tactic that narcissists often use in the early stages of a relationship or when trying to regain control after a conflict. This involves overwhelming you with affection, attention, and compliments to create a sense of dependency and devotion. While love bombing can feel intoxicating in the moment, it is often followed by a dramatic shift to devaluation or neglect once the narcissist feels they have secured your loyalty. Recognizing this cycle can help you avoid becoming emotionally entangled and maintain a more balanced perspective on their behavior. Silent treatment is another weapon in the narcissist's arsenal, used to punish or manipulate you by withdrawing communication or affection. This tactic exploits the human need for connection and approval, leaving you feeling isolated and desperate for reconciliation. The silent treatment is designed to make you feel powerless and compel you to conform to their expectations to regain their attention. By refusing to chase after them or seek their approval, you can take back control of the dynamic and deny them the satisfaction of your distress. Another subtle yet effective tactic narcissists use is future faking, where they make grand promises or plans to keep you invested in the relationship. They might talk about future commitments like vacations, career opportunities, or milestones to maintain your interest and distract you from their current behavior. However, these promises are rarely fulfilled and serve as a tool to manipulate your hope and prevent you from questioning their intentions. Recognizing future faking involves paying attention to patterns of broken promises and focusing on their actions rather than their words. Devaluation is a tactic often employed after a narcissist has built you up through love bombing or other manipulative behaviors. Once they feel secure in their position of power, they begin to tear you down through criticism, sarcasm, or dismissiveness. This shift can be confusing and hurtful, leaving you wondering what you did wrong or how to regain their approval. By recognizing devaluation as a deliberate tactic, you can detach from their attempts to undermine your self-esteem and focus on maintaining your own sense of worth. Intermittent reinforcement is another powerful manipulation technique narcissists use to keep you engaged in the relationship. By alternating between periods of affection and neglect, they create a cycle of unpredictability that leaves you constantly seeking their approval. This tactic is particularly effective because the occasional rewards such as compliments or moments of connection keep you hopeful and invested, despite the overall negative dynamic. Understanding this pattern can help you break free from its grip and see the relationship for what it truly is. Recognizing these manipulation tactics is the first step in protecting yourself from their effects. By staying vigilant and educating yourself about the ways narcissists operate, you can build the awareness and resilience needed to navigate these interactions. When you understand the underlying motivations behind their behavior, it becomes easier to maintain your boundaries, stay grounded in your reality, and resist the urge to engage in their games. Establishing firm boundaries is not only crucial when dealing with a narcissist, but is also a vital act of self-preservation and empowerment. Narcissists thrive in environments where they can manipulate, control, and violate the emotional and psychological boundaries of others. Whether it's their constant need for attention, their emotional abuse, or their disregard for your needs, a narcissist will often push boundaries until they are confronted. This makes it imperative for you to set clear, non-negotiable boundaries and enforce them consistently. Boundaries are essential because they serve as a safeguard to protect your emotional, physical, and mental well-being. In a relationship with a narcissist, you may find that your needs, desires, and feelings are often dismissed, ignored, or outright belittled. By establishing boundaries, you are communicating to the narcissist that certain behaviors and actions are not acceptable and that you will not tolerate being treated in ways that compromise your sense of self-worth. Setting boundaries can be difficult, especially for people who have spent a long time trying to accommodate the narcissist's demands or who have been conditioned to believe that their needs are secondary. However, recognizing that you have the right to protect yourself is the first step in taking control of your life and your interactions with the narcissist. The process of setting boundaries with a narcissist begins with self-awareness. Understanding what you need in order to feel respected, valued, and emotionally safe is crucial. This requires you to be honest with yourself about the things that have been compromised in your interactions with the narcissist. Do you feel drained, ignored, belittled, or manipulated? Are you often sacrificing your own happiness or well-being for the sake of maintaining peace or avoiding conflict? Identifying these patterns is the first step in determining what boundaries need to be put in place. Once you know where your limits lie, you can start defining specific actions or behaviors that are unacceptable. These boundaries should be clear, specific, and firm. There should be no ambiguity about what is and isn't allowed. When setting boundaries with a narcissist, it's essential to remember that you must enforce them consistently. Narcissists will test your limits, often pushing you to see how far they can go before you give in or compromise. This is part of their manipulation tactics, and if they sense any weakness or inconsistency in your resolve, they will take advantage of it. For example, if you've established a boundary that you will not tolerate yelling or verbal abuse, the narcissist may test this boundary by raising their voice or insulting you in a subtle way. In such cases, it is important to stand firm and calmly reinforce your boundary. If you back down or make excuses for their behavior, the narcissist will see it as an opportunity to continue their manipulation. It's also important to recognize that narcissists may react negatively to your boundaries. They may accuse you of being selfish, unreasonable, or controlling. They may try to guilt trip you or make you feel responsible for their emotional state. Narcissists often view boundaries as an attack on their sense of control, so they will likely respond with anger, deflection, or even charm in an attempt to make you feel guilty for asserting yourself. This is why it's crucial to stay grounded and focused on your own needs. Their emotional reactions are a reflection of their inability to respect boundaries, not a reflection of your worth or validity. It's important to not internalize their attempts to make you feel guilty or responsible for their behavior. To reinforce your boundaries, it's also important to prioritize self-care. Narcissists can be emotionally draining, and constantly dealing with their manipulative tactics can leave you feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, and depleted. Engaging in regular self-care practices, whether it's spending time with supportive friends and family, pursuing hobbies or interests that fulfill you, or seeking professional support, can help replenish your emotional reserves and strengthen your ability to enforce your boundaries. The more you value and care for yourself, the less likely you are to tolerate behavior that undermines your well-being. While it may seem difficult at first, practicing self-assertion is key to maintaining your boundaries with a narcissist. This involves not just setting limits, but also confidently and calmly communicating them. For instance, if a narcissist tries to push you into doing something that violates your boundaries, you can assertively say something like, "I'm not comfortable with that, and I need you to respect my decision." It's essential to be clear and direct without being apologetic or defensive. Narcissists thrive on ambiguity and confusion, so the more straightforward you are in expressing your boundaries, the less room they have to manipulate or twist your words. You may also need to create physical or emotional distance when necessary. If a narcissist refuses to respect your boundaries or becomes verbally abusive, it might be necessary to remove yourself from the situation. For example, if they start yelling or insulting you, you might say, "I'm not going to engage in this conversation if you continue to yell. I will leave until you're ready to speak respectfully." Setting a physical boundary by walking away or leaving a situation can be a powerful way to reassert control and communicate that you will not tolerate disrespectful behavior. In some cases, enforcing boundaries with a narcissist may also require you to distance yourself from the relationship altogether. If the narcissist refuses to change or respect your boundaries despite your efforts, it may become necessary to evaluate whether the relationship is worth continuing. Sometimes the healthiest boundary you can set is one that involves cutting ties with someone who consistently disrespects you and fails to meet your basic emotional needs. While this can be an incredibly difficult decision, particularly if there's a long history or emotional attachment, it's essential to recognize that maintaining your emotional health and personal boundaries is paramount. Establishing boundaries with a narcissist isn't a one-time task, but an ongoing process. Narcissists will continuously test your limits, and you will need to remain vigilant, assertive, and consistent in enforcing them. By doing so, you create a clear framework for how you expect to be treated, and you send a strong message that your needs and well-being are non-negotiable. Over time, you will become more confident in standing your ground, and the narcissist will learn that they cannot manipulate or control you. The more firmly you establish and maintain your boundaries, the more empowered you will feel in your interactions, and the less impact their behavior will have on you. The importance of maintaining emotional detachment when dealing with a narcissist cannot be overstated. Narcissists rely on your emotional reactions to manipulate, control, and assert dominance in relationships. Their goal is often to provoke a response from you, whether it's through anger, frustration, guilt, or fear, so they can exploit your vulnerability. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop feeling or that you should become cold or indifferent. Rather, it's about creating a healthy emotional distance that allows you to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively to the narcissist's provocations. By maintaining this emotional distance, you are safeguarding your peace, self-respect, and emotional stability. One of the first steps in emotional detachment is recognizing that narcissists thrive on emotional reactions. They may use tactics like belittling, dismissiveness, or gaslighting to provoke an emotional outburst from you. When you react emotionally, you give them the power to manipulate the situation and deflect attention from their toxic behavior. They will often escalate their actions if they sense that it's causing you distress, as this feeds their need for control and dominance. Therefore, the ability to detach emotionally means not allowing your emotions to be hijacked by their behavior. It involves taking a step back mentally and emotionally to observe the situation without being swept away by it. A critical aspect of emotional detachment is recognizing that you cannot control the narcissist's actions or emotions. Narcissists will often engage in behaviors that are designed to provoke or control you, from playing the victim to demanding attention in unhealthy ways. However, you have the ability to control your own responses. Instead of getting caught in the cycle of reacting to their behavior, emotional detachment allows you to choose how to respond. When you stop giving them the emotional reactions they crave, you break their cycle of manipulation, forcing them to look elsewhere for their emotional gratification. This requires a shift in mindset, where you consciously choose not to engage in emotional drama, regardless of how they try to provoke you. To detach emotionally, it's also important to practice self-awareness and mindfulness. In many cases, narcissists can trigger emotional responses that are rooted in past wounds or insecurities. For example, if they criticize your appearance or belittle your achievements, it may trigger feelings of inadequacy or self-doubt. Emotional detachment requires recognizing when these triggers are being activated and taking a step back before responding. It means acknowledging the emotional reaction without letting it take control of the situation. Practicing mindfulness techniques such as deep breathing, meditation, or even taking a moment to pause before responding can help you create the necessary emotional distance to process the situation with clarity and composure. In addition, emotional detachment means setting mental boundaries that protect your inner peace. While narcissists are often skilled at provoking strong reactions, you can create mental boundaries that shield you from their influence. This may involve consciously choosing not to internalize their criticism or their attempts to provoke you. When a narcissist insults or belittles you, remind yourself that their words are a reflection of their own insecurities, not a reflection of your worth. By mentally distancing yourself from their negative behavior, you can prevent that toxic energy from infiltrating your emotional state. It's essential to train yourself to view the actions from a more objective standpoint, recognizing that their behavior is not about you, but about their need for control and validation. Emotional detachment also involves controlling your expectations. Many people who struggle to detach emotionally from a narcissist do so because they hold out hope for change or believe that their narcissistic behavior can be reformed. However, the reality is that narcissists rarely change unless they are willing to seek professional help, which is often something they will never consider. Accepting this fact is key to detaching emotionally. When you stop expecting them to change, you free yourself from the emotional roller coaster of disappointment and frustration. You stop investing energy in trying to fix or change them, and instead you focus on protecting your own emotional well-being. It's also helpful to understand that emotional detachment does not mean you are emotionally numb or indifferent to the person. In fact, emotional detachment can be an act of deep self-care, as it allows you to preserve your emotional health and protect yourself from manipulation. By detaching, you give yourself permission to feel your emotions without being overwhelmed by them. You are able to acknowledge and process your feelings in a healthy way rather than letting them be controlled or hijacked by the narcissist. This allows you to stay true to yourself and your emotions without being swayed by their attempts to control how you feel. Another key component of emotional detachment is recognizing the importance of emotional self-regulation. This means that you actively choose how to manage your emotions, rather than letting the narcissist's actions dictate how you feel. For example, if a narcissist tries to make you feel guilty for setting boundaries or standing up for yourself, emotional detachment helps you remain calm and centered. You don't give in to their attempts to guilt trip or manipulate you emotionally. Instead, you recognize that you have every right to protect your emotional well-being and that their tactics are a reflection of their needs, not yours. Furthermore, emotional detachment involves developing a sense of emotional resilience. The more emotionally resilient you become, the less likely you are to be shaken by the narcissist's attempts to control you. Resilience allows you to bounce back from negative experiences without becoming consumed by them. It's a skill that can be developed through practice, reflection, and self-care. By building emotional resilience, you become less reactive to their provocations, and you are better equipped to handle the emotional challenges that arise in your relationship with the narcissist. In many cases, emotional detachment also involves limiting your emotional investment in the relationship. Narcissists often expect you to invest a significant amount of emotional energy into the relationship while offering little in return. They may demand constant validation, attention, or admiration, but when you need support or care, they are nowhere to be found. Emotional detachment means recognizing this imbalance and choosing to withdraw your emotional investment. It's about protecting your energy and focusing on relationships that are more balanced and supportive. By withdrawing emotional investment from the narcissist, you regain control of your emotions and take back power over your interactions with them. By practicing emotional detachment, you not only safeguard your emotional well-being, but also create the space necessary for personal growth and healing. Detachment allows you to break free from the toxic cycle of manipulation and regain control over your life. It shifts your focus from trying to change or appease the narcissist to focusing on your own emotional needs and goals. When you detach emotionally, you free yourself from the weight of their expectations, criticisms, and manipulations, and you create the emotional space needed to thrive independently. Letting go of the need for validation from a narcissist is one of the most empowering actions you can take in your journey of self-preservation and self-empowerment. Narcissists are experts at feeding off the attention, admiration, and validation they receive from others. They often manipulate people into seeking their approval or validating their sense of superiority. In relationships with narcissists, the need for their approval can become a dangerous cycle, leading you to constantly question your own worth and abilities. However, when you let go of the need for validation from them, you reclaim your self-worth and stop giving them control over your emotions and actions. The first step in letting go of this need is understanding that narcissists are incapable of offering genuine validation. Their validation is often conditional, self-serving, and tied to their own desires for control and admiration. A narcissist will only validate you if it benefits them in some way, if it elevates their ego or ensures that you continue to cater to their needs. When you seek validation from them, you are essentially seeking their approval for your own worth, which is an unhealthy and unbalanced dynamic. By letting go of this need, you stop relying on their approval to define your sense of self. You no longer give them the power to dictate how you feel about yourself or your accomplishments. Letting go of the need for validation also means recognizing that your worth is not tied to anyone else's opinion or approval. It's easy to become trapped in the mindset that validation from others, especially from someone you care about, is necessary for your happiness and self-esteem. However, this external validation is temporary and fleeting, and it rarely fulfills your deeper emotional needs. True self-worth comes from within, and it is not dependent on how others perceive or approve of you. This shift in mindset is crucial when dealing with a narcissist, as it helps you break free from the cycle of seeking their approval and allows you to build a stronger, more secure sense of self. Part of the process of letting go of the need for validation involves setting healthy expectations for yourself. When you stop seeking validation from a narcissist, you start focusing on meeting your own needs and goals rather than in trying to meet their expectations. You begin to recognize that your value doesn't lie in their acknowledgement or approval, but in your own actions, decisions, and accomplishments. This can be a difficult transition, especially if you have spent a significant amount of time seeking their validation or trying to meet their expectations. However, the more you practice self-validation and self-acceptance, the easier it becomes to let go of the need for external validation. One of the challenges of letting go of validation from a narcissist is learning to trust your own judgment. Narcissists often manipulate the truth, distort reality, and make you doubt your own perceptions and decisions. They may gaslight you into thinking that you are wrong or irrational, even when you know deep down that you are not. In order to let go of the need for their validation, you must learn to trust your own instincts and believe in your ability to make sound decisions. This means recognizing when you are being manipulated and taking a stand for your own truth. Even if the narcissist disagrees or tries to undermine you, trusting yourself is a key part of gaining independence from the narcissist and reclaiming your emotional freedom. When you stop seeking validation from a narcissist, you also stop being so affected by their criticism or attempts to belittle you. Narcissists often use criticism as a tool to assert dominance and to keep you feeling inferior or dependent on their approval. When you rely on their validation, their criticism becomes even more damaging as it feels like a direct attack on your worth. However, when you let go of the need for their validation, you begin to see their criticism for what it truly is, a reflection of their own insecurity, narcissism, and need to control. You stop internalizing their negative comments and begin to recognize that their words are not a reflection of your true worth. By disengaging from the need for their approval, you protect yourself from the emotional damage caused by their criticism and regain control over how you see yourself. Another important aspect of letting go of the need for validation from a narcissist is recognizing the power dynamics at play in the relationship. Narcissists often use validation as a tool to keep you emotionally dependent on them. They may withhold validation as a way to manipulate you into doing what they want, or they may use it as a form of reward for behavior they find desirable. This creates an unhealthy power imbalance where you are constantly striving to meet their expectations in order to receive their approval. By letting go of this need for validation, you take back control of your emotions and your actions. You no longer rely on their approval to guide your decisions or define your sense of self. This shift empowers you to make choices based on your own values, needs, and desires rather than being driven by the narcissist's expectations. Letting go of the need for validation also involves learning to embrace your own strengths, accomplishments, and qualities without seeking recognition from others. This means taking pride in your achievements and acknowledging your own worth, regardless of whether others recognize it. Narcissists are often quick to take credit for things that you do or belittle your successes in order to maintain their own sense of superiority. However, by letting go of the need for their validation, you begin to recognize that your worth is inherent and doesn't require external recognition. You become more focused on your own growth and self-improvement rather than seeking validation or approval from others. Additionally, letting go of the need for validation from a narcissist can help you foster healthier, more balanced relationships. When you stop relying on their approval, you stop sacrificing your own needs and values in order to please them. You start building relationships based on mutual respect, understanding, and support, rather than based on manipulation and control. You no longer tolerate behavior that undermines your self-worth or compromises your emotional well-being. This shift allows you to attract people who value you for who you truly are, rather than for what you can do for them or how much you feed into their ego. In the process of letting go of validation, you may also discover that the narcissist becomes less relevant in your life. As you strengthen your sense of self-worth and become less dependent on their approval, you start to see their behavior for what it is, a reflection of their own deep insecurities and need for control. The more you disconnect from their need for validation, the less influence they have over your life. You begin to realize that their opinion no longer holds power over your emotional state or your decisions. This newfound freedom allows you to focus on your own goals, relationships, and aspirations without being weighed down by the narcissist's need for control and validation.